Hello, everyone, and welcome to session number 8 on Living the Truth. It's great to see you all. Great to see some people I haven't seen in a bit, and welcome back. And of course, to all the regulars. So we're continuing to explore this, what it means to live our realizations, in a sense, to live in harmony with what we've realized. And I'm kind of backing up a little bit, but I want to try to integrate a little as well. I was getting some questions about, well, what is this truth we're living with, and how does this relate to words like enlightenment or awakening and so on. Sometimes those would sound like basic questions are actually quite deep and worth exploring. So I started to think, okay, how would I describe this to someone asking that question? What is awakening? And as I kind of reflected on it, I realized that there's a lot of misunderstanding about awakening. So I wanted to start by looking at that. Many of us think of awakening as some kind of exotic experience, perhaps. If we've traveled to countries like Thailand and Burma, which are, can seem very different and exotic and colorful and, culturally distinct from what we may be used to in Canada. So it could seem the enlightenment or awakening has this kind of exotic element to it. Or some may see it as very extraordinary. It's only a few people. It happens to only a few people. The rest of us just pound away on the path for what seems like eternity, and awakening. It's just for a few that it or that it takes years. That it's going to somehow it's going to happen. If I keep meditating every day and go on enough retreats, that somewhere down in the future, this thing called awakening will happen to me. And so all that is misperception. It's a misunderstanding for so many reasons. The biggest barrier to awakening is the belief that it's rare and extraordinary. I think that's the biggest barrier. And so that's really what kind of motivated me to give this talk now, even though it seems like such a basic, perhaps, topic. That it's difficult, it's rare. It's a lot of, you got to work real hard and do all these things to awaken to your true nature. Is the biggest barrier. Those beliefs is the biggest, one of the biggest barriers, perhaps the biggest. I don't know. Could be different for all of us. But I think dropping that belief structure is crucial to awakening. Dropping that belief that it's difficult, that it's rare. Or at least ask the question, I really don't know if this is true. If my belief that awakening is difficult and rare, I really don't know if that's true, if that belief is true. So at least asking that question, which of course can prompt the mind into letting go of the belief. Once you ask, is it really true? Do I know that it's absolutely true? You may find that you don't. Therefore, you suspend this belief. And when you suspend this belief, you really, everything becomes instantly available to you. The moment that belief is suspended, so much opens up, so much potentiality becomes available and opens to you. And it really feels like a resting. And that belief is suspended or let go of. It takes a tremendous amount of work to stay in the egoic dream state. It just does. It's exhausting to stay in this altered state. Call it an altered state of consciousness, because it's the natural state is who we truly are. It takes a lot of work to stay in that state, that egoic, some call it a dream state. So if you let go of the struggle and you let go of the belief structure that it's rare, the potential of awakening the truth just reveals itself. The potential just comes forth as some kind of grace almost. It just comes forth. It's no longer blocked by this belief structure. As long as you're going around believing that this is difficult, this is going to take years, right? You've blocked the potential right then and there. It seems so simple. And again, just asking the question, do I really know that this is true? That it is difficult and rare? Is this true? Do I know that this is absolutely true? And perhaps that'll help you suspend that belief. So my teaching over the last few years has been really focused exclusively on waking up. I think you've probably noticed that, folks that have been coming for a few years. In a way, it's kind of shifted. I may offer different teachings, and I teach on Go Boomerang, where I offer teachings on mindfulness and anxiety. So I do offer these kinds of teachings that respond to different varying needs and questions. But ultimately, there's this one focus, and that's waking up. So I've been really focused on trying to shake you awake for the past several years, and not teaching you, as I often say, not teaching you how to have better dreams, or how to, redecorate your prison cell. It's another way I've sometimes put it, which is a little more direct, I guess. So awakening is not extraordinary or difficult. It's not an extraordinary or difficult experience. In fact, it's not an experience at all. So it's another kind of image of it that we need to let go, that somehow the me, is going to have this experience called awakening or enlightenment. No me ever gets enlightened. Now, the me can think it's enlightened, which is actually a pretty dangerous being, an egoic me that thinks it's enlightened. And so it can think, but it never actually is enlightened. So what is this thing called awakening? What is it? What does it actually, like, what does it mean? This thing I'm saying is not rare and difficult. It's simply, one way to put it is, it's simply not perceiving reality through the ego. It's not seeing anything through this delusion or distortion called the egoic state. You're not perceiving through the egoic mind. And we've discussed quite a bit what that means through the self. Buddha called it no self or not self. So it's perceiving reality, not perceiving reality through the egoic mind. And in this way, it's seeing clearly. The word vipassana, if we practice vipassana meditation, vipassana simply means seeing clearly. What's that mean? It means you're not seeing through the distortion of the egoic mind. You're seeing things clearly. And you could call this the natural state. I've heard other teachers refer to it as the natural state, because you're no longer seeing reality through this distorting lens. It's like if you had a camera and you put a filter on it, and all it did was distort everything and make it look different. That's a distorting lens. You're simply seeing things without this distorting lens. It's perceiving without a lens at all. That's why we hear, people say it's seeing things as they are, not as they're seen by the egoic mind. And what's nirvana? Another word that we hear, right? Nirvana versus, Buddha talked about nirvana and samsara. Samsara is the wheel of suffering, which is seeing reality through the egoic mind, keeps us on the wheel of suffering. It's that simple. Buddha went on and on describing, what causes suffering. Then he said, in short, it's suffering is caused by the 5 aggregates of clinging. The 5 aggregates are these ways in which we create the egoic self. So and so what's nirvana? Nirvana simply means seeing things as they actually are, as opposed to this distortion. So what do you see? You see everything as one, not separate, not two. You see everything as empty. The nature of everything is empty. It has no inherent existence on its own. In other words, nothing exists on its own. Everything depends on everything else. And I can say more about that if people have that as a question at the end, what I mean by that. Nothing exists on its own. So you're seeing things as they are. So it's not an altered state of consciousness. In fact, the egoic consciousness is an altered state of consciousness. It's seeing things through a distorted lens. So it's altered. Right? It's because everything actually is one. You don't need a distorted lens or an altered state to see this. You actually need an altered state to see everything as separate. Right? To see everything as separate is how the egoic mind views reality. And so it's a distortion of reality. So you've heard people call it a dream state. So you're awakening from the dream state of separateness to the reality of one, to seeing the interconnection, interbeing. Another way to put it is it's perception without distortion. So it's perceiving a thought, a situation, a relationship, an emotion, all of it without any distortion. The distortion of the egoic mind. So this is one way to define it and to view it as simply not perceiving reality through the ego. So we spent, I don't know how many weeks, like 15 weeks, looking at doing a series on experiencing not self or no self. If you haven't seen those, when I send out my email, I have them at the bottom that you can go in and look at that series, because it's really crucial to understand what I mean when I say, seeing no self, experiencing no self. So that's something that you can look at the bottom of those emails. And if you don't get the emails, just go to payattention.ca and you can sign up and access that whole series. So it's not perceiving through this thing called the ego, or this process called the ego. So what's another way to put it? So I'll come at it from another angle. Put another way, it's simply recognizing. It's the recognition of the nature of our being. And this is one thing the egoic mind can't do, is see the nature, the true nature of our being. And the true nature of reality, because we're just part of reality. So when I say we see our true nature, it's not, you just don't see your true nature. You see the true nature of everyone else, and you see the true nature of everything: the tree, the book, the tea cup, the bell, the true nature of everything. So you recognize the nature of our being and reality. And that is the reality which underlies and pervades all our experience, irrespective of what its content may be, whether it be sorrows or joys. So you could call it awakening as a process of recognition as well, process of recognizing the nature of our being. So it's really, this is why it's not difficult or rare. It's really to know something that we've always known, but we've kind of forgotten or overlooked. We've ignored our essential nature because we're so fascinated with the content of experience, aren't we? Even if you've had deep realizations, let me tell you, it's easy to get pulled back into the fascination with contents of experience. Sometimes I'm having a day where I'm just in this meditative state, and a thought will arise, this is kind of boring. I bet it'd be really exciting and interesting to go and follow this, chase this content, this experience, whatever it might be. And I've seen myself actually engaged in doing this. So we're fascinated by the content. So we ignore our essential nature. We just kind of overlook it. We forget it. We don't remember it. We occupy our attention so exclusively on content that we overlook our true nature of our being. So this awakening is simply the recognition of this. We have this intelligence that recognizes it. And that's what I was speaking about in the meditation, is sensing into that intelligence that can feel intuitively our direct experience, what's happening in our direct experience moment by moment, rather than lost in the abstract contents of the mind. So this essential nature of everything is kind of that aspect that's unconditioned. It can't be removed, can't be separated from. It's the essential nature of everything. Right? So all the content, the stuff that we're fascinated with, arises and decays, right? You've seen that. Thoughts, emotions, everything. It rises, decays. The body rises, decays. It's the nature of existence. But our essential nature remains untouched. Our essential nature remains untouched. That this aspect doesn't arise and decay. as a Buddha would say, it's unconditioned, it's unborn, it's deathless, uncreated, unfabricated. I mean, so many, there's a lot of unwords to describe it. It's where language fails us in describing something because it's unlanguageable in many ways, in all ways. So this way of recognition, I'm talking about this recognition, is an approach in which we let go of everything that's not essential to us, till all that's left is our essential being. So we're constantly tracing back our way to our essential being and letting go of everything else. Letting go of everything else. So we don't become our essential nature. It's not something we have to work at to become. It's not rare. It's everybody is their essential nature. It's not rare. It's not difficult. So we don't become our essential nature. It is rather revealed as we strip away the conditioned aspects of ourselves. As we let go of the content of that which is not essential to us. So you're already it. So if you hear somebody say you're already enlightened, that's what they're pointing to. You do not become this being. It's always present. It's always and already who you are naturally. I mean, it's the least rare thing there is. Right? People can have different contents of experience, and I could have, I don't know, a Maserati. That's a fancy car, right? I've heard a Maserati, and that could be rare, like, right? That could be rare, but your essential being, everybody has it. You don't do it. You don't earn it. You don't achieve it. You don't. You can't lose it. It's the least rare thing there is. So we're stripping away the conditioned aspects, and what's left is the unconditioned. You can do this in any moment. You can strip away, that's conditioned. That arises and passes. That's conditioned. That arises and passes. Just let all that go. More thoughts, maybe emotions, whatever is arising. Let it go, and what's left, you receive your essential nature is what's left. And for most of us, this isn't something that just happens once, right? Because we, as I said, we're fascinated by the content of our experience. So it's not something you go through this process of letting go, and then you're left with the unconditioned. It's not something that just happens once and then, you never go back to the fascination with objects, with content. We trace our way back to our essential nature numerous times. And through the force of habit, it's eclipsed. Our being is eclipsed again and again. We trace it back again and again. Our essential nature is veiled or obscured again. We let go of what's obscuring it, what's veiling it. We see our essential nature again and again. So we trace our way back to our essential nature again and again until this recognition is revealed itself so many times, it just becomes our kind of default way of being. each time you do it, you trace back to your essential nature. We notice that our objective experience has less and less power to distract us and take us away from our essential nature. It's diminished. The power of objects is diminished. So you might, find you're tasting or glimpsing your essential nature over and over again. And that's part of the process of recognition. It's not a problem. It's just what happens. Your essential nature is still there. It's just obscured, clouded over. It's just the process of recognition. So we get these glimpses, these tastes, and eventually we become established in being, our true nature. We're abiding. Who would like to use that word, abiding? It means kind of established in it. It becomes it's our default way of being. The way we're divested from the contents of experience. This is kind of its luster. Doesn't mean things aren't enjoyed. I'm enjoying this tea right now. It's a very nice tea. It's hibiscus and peppermint. That's my favorite concoction. I really enjoy it. But it's tea. If I run out of it now, I'll get some more. But I don't have a fascination with it, put it that way. Sure is good though. But we lose our fascination. When we lose our fascination with content, with objects, it loses its ability. They lose their ability to agitate us. Have you noticed that? Like if you let go of something, there's no more struggle with some aspect of content, of experience. There's a peace. You can be at peace. It's experienced as peace. That's why we use this word so much in these teachings. There's no sense of lack that characterizes experience. In fact, I've only got 2 more bags of this tea left. This could cause a lot of suffering, right? If I was very attached to this tea, maybe I'll start drinking coffee if I can't get any more tea bags. That'd be fun too, right? It's whatever. It's enjoying what arises. So the peace and joy can be revealed as the very nature of our being. Our essential nature is naturally compassionate, peaceful, joyful. It's what you've heard the word uncaused peace or uncaused happiness. It means it's a peace or happiness that does not depend on what's taking place in our experience. There's no cause in our experience, but it's the very nature of our being that's peaceful. Sometimes it's called innate peace. Innate peace, innate joy, innate compassion. And it's obscured when we mix it up. We get mixed up in the content of our experience. And you're here at a Thursday night meditation group. So you're seeking something. You've likely tasted this peace. You've likely recognized your essential being. and tasted it. So it's just really a process of doing this over and over again. It's just a process. And the more you do it, the fewer and fewer experiences in life have the power to take you away from yourself, from your true nature. This is what's meant by abiding in your true nature or becoming established. And this does not belong to a person. It's the true nature of everything, of everyone. It's impersonal. It's unlimited. So you start to feel that it extends beyond your borders as a person, beyond the sort of boundary of your skin. It's really the essence of everything. So we intuit that what we essentially are is the same reality that all beings and things essentially are. You start to, this is the notion, the sense of unity that can arise, of oneness. What you essentially are is the same reality that all beings and all things essentially are. And this recognition, this is what we refer to as love in relationships, or beauty in relation to objects and nature. All we see is love and beauty in the world. So in truth, you already are what you're seeking. As Meister Eckhart, the Christian mystic, he said that you are looking for God through God's eyes. Or another way to put it, you're all living Buddhas. You're all divine. So we can let go of all these beliefs and thoughts and images about awakening, because they come and go, and they're not generated by you anyway. So we can let go of all that. And also remembering that awakening is not the end. It's the beginning of the end. That's why we're doing this Living the Truth series. It's the beginning of a life lived from true nature. So it's embodying what you are. So being that human expression of oneness and unity. So you're no longer functioning through your conditioning and the perceptions of the little me and the ego. It's simply love and beauty that's operating as you. And that doesn't mean your life's going to be a never-ending good fortune either. It's another perhaps belief that the little me has. That would not be a peace that surpasses all understanding. It's easy to have peace when things are going good, right? But life doesn't operate like that. Life doesn't need to be going better, it just flows. Yeah, who was it? Somebody famous said life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. One of my favorite movies. Because of that line, I just said that line is just, yeah. So I'll stop there and open it up for any questions or comments about that. Kind of the different ways that I've tried to describe awakening, maybe dispelling some of the misunderstandings.
Stephen, Stephen. Thank you for that. I have a page full of notes. I'm going to try to be as concise as possible and not hijack the space. So a lot of what you said really resonated with me specifically tonight, especially when you talked about tracing our way back several times. You can hear me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so tracing our way back several times. So I recently went back to university, just giving you context. And then I also decided to do these social media campaigns. And I've been feeling since I started university, a lot of this kind of push and pull type thing. And as you were talking, I had this aha moment because, you talked about being drawn back. So as an example, I got 100% on an assignment and I thought, oh, I'm amazing. I'm a genius. And that felt so good. And then I'm being praised by my professors and things like that. So all of these, I suppose egoic things are happening to me and I'm loving it. But then there's a struggle of, okay, well, I want to keep this. I hope they keep on liking me. And it's been a lot in interacting with hundreds of people. And I've just been feeling so much discomfort. And then with the social media, same kind of thing. I'm doing all the things and, getting all the praise and all the things that I intellectualize feel great because they're egoic, but they still feel great. And then I find myself thinking, well, then what's wrong with it then? If we're living a life where things feel great, just like you said, you love your tea, we see people that have all the things, they have all the egoic things, they have their, whatever it is, they have their material things, they have this, that, and the other. Well, what's wrong with that? Why don't we just all stay there? That's a fun place to be. There's no struggle there. We're not having to wonder what's going on. So anyway, all that to say is that I relate to what you're saying about tracing back several times. And I saw an image of a person who was tethered with many ropes and he's trying to move forward. And that's where I feel I'm at right now in my life with this journey, is that I know you talked about bridging the gap. And I feel like there's, I don't know if you want to call it, well, me, higher self, me or whatever. And then there's me being pulled back towards the illusion constantly with conditioning and all the ropes and the invisible ropes and the visible ropes. And so I just feel like I'm kind of like leaning towards higher self, but constantly being tethered back by these ropes. So anyway, that's just where I'm at. But I did have a question for you. What do we do with our loved ones? So I'll say it very specifically, and I'm going to whisper a little bit because my daughter's here. So I have teenage kids, and one of them is struggling. She's struggling with friendship, school, things like that. And you can see it from the outside. You can see the struggle. You can see the illusions and everything. What do we do? Do we guide? Am I a Sherpa? And I'm like, it's okay. I'm gonna guide you towards the place, or do I just watch and then stand there waiting until she falls, or do I hold loving space? I just find that's my biggest challenge right now, is seeing those that I love in the midst of the struggle that we've been talking about for the last 15 weeks or so. So my question to you is, clearly and concisely, what do we do when we watch our loved ones struggle like that? The end.
Yeah. And you've asked this question before in slightly different words, which is fine. I mean, it's many of us struggle with that aspect of attachment, because there's a deep attachment to loved ones and children in particular. I don't want to give relationship advice in the sense of, that you should be this way or that way with your children, except to say that, we're all going through this process of recognition. And perhaps we're all and our children perhaps are also perceiving reality through the egoic mind. Right? And no amount of, you don't want to become their Dharma teacher. Even as a Dharma teacher, I'm not my children's Dharma teacher unless they ask me. And I got asked like recently, Dad, when you say to meditate on something, what do you actually mean by that? I think I've told you this. They were buying a house and they'd thought about it using their cognitive mind, their analytic minds. They're both scientists, right? They've analyzed it. They probably had spreadsheets, knowing the two of them. Probably had spreadsheets and everything. They'd thought about it to the nth degree, and then it occurred to Christina, is there another way to think about this? My dad has said before, he meditates on things. What does that mean? So she asked me, so then I gave some explanation, and they meditated on it, and it actually, according to them, helped tremendously in bringing up another intelligence they were able to access. But it just happens, right? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's what all I can say. It's we watch and we help where we can, and they live their lives. I guess when they're teenagers, it's perhaps a little harder because we think we need to have more say in how they live their lives, but then that's part of our role as well, to keep them safe. I mean, with my son, my job was, and I said this to Vita, I said, our job is to keep him alive until he's 18, because he was a daredevil, right? That's our only job here. Beyond that, if he's alive at 18, we'll have been successful. And so it was to have kind of pretty, realistic, I guess, goals on how much we can actually influence the course of another being's life. Have you noticed how you have very little influence on your own life? Right? So that gives you some indication of how much influence you have on another being's life, even if they're a child, one of your children. But we don't stop trying, right? Keep them safe, point them into directions that we think are wise, whatever arises for us, we do. I know that's not a complete answer, but that's the best I can do.
No, it's great, because I'm like, should I be doing more? Is there something more? But no, that's what I've been doing. So I suppose I just was hoping, maybe I just wanted validation. Yeah. So no, that's great. And it's just kind of like, I'm going through my own thing, and then I'm like, well, what do I do with now? She's struggling too, and now everyone's struggling. What do I do? There's so much struggling happening everywhere, but everyone's on their own journey, I suppose, at the end of the day. So yeah, no, that was really helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You said it. You summed it up so well. Everybody's on their own journey, and the possibility of perhaps becoming a grandparent, right? As kids are getting older, I was reflecting on, well, what could grandparenting look like? I was thinking, it's an opportunity to really reflect on parenting. And I was thinking, I'm just going to do two things: unconditionally love them and listen. And I think those two things probably do more than all the advice I could give, and all the attempts at controlling how they live their lives. Just listen and just love, and things will arise from there.
Thank you.
Were you going to say something, Jason, or are you just
I'll say something.
in a contemplative pose?
I was thinking about what I was going to say.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that the same issue similar that wanna, I wanna. That's how we.
How do you say your name?
I wanna.
You'll wanna, like,
Joanna.
you wanna go and listen to Stephen again.
Joanna.
You wanna go? You wanna do something? Yeah.
You wanna.
Joanna.
I was thinking I wanna. Okay.
I know it's phonetically incorrect, so yeah, but
You wanna.
thank you for asking. Yes.
So, yeah, the similar thing with, you know, I'm in Ottawa. I mean, you are too, Stephen, and everyone's freaked out about the trucker convoy, and it's causing people a lot of stress, and the media really has taken, you know, it's grabbed onto that and amplified it. And I feel like a little bit abnormal sometimes because it's not really bothering me that much, and I live really close to it. You know, but at the same time, I can still appreciate that. I can still have compassion for people that when they are really identifying with the circumstances, that it is actually really hard for them. So that doesn't mean that I have to think it's hard, like, because I'm, you know, I just think it's happening. This is happening, so it has to happen. And but I can still offer support to people that are having a difficult time. That's how I've been going about it, and not pass judgment on them. Just kind of hear what they're saying, and, you know, validating that, yeah, it sounds really difficult, and, you know, that's their truth, and that's 100% needs to be that way as well. So the other thing I was just going to say was that yeah, when you speak, I like essential nature. Maybe that's the new word you need to use for perfection. It's hard. It's easier for the mind to, I feel like, grab that term and not kind of like mess it around. But also essential nature is, you know, it's also, I feel like all essential nature is actually unessential as well. And language still, in the end, you know, it doesn't really capture it. It's still, it feels a little bit more it feels a little bit closer than, you know. Yeah, and I think the other thing I was going to say is that the lack of control, no control, you know, we're not even relinquishing the control. I'm not doing that anyways, but once I'm in the state of no control, control can actually arise, but it's not actually me doing it. It's a complete paradox, but that's it kind of, to me, that it's like very liberating, because things are out of my hands, but what I do is also important. Like I feel it very liberating, that the fact that, like, I don't really know what's going on, but let's just see what happens. You know, and it allows I find that having that approach to life is just very, you know, it just kind of allows things to happen, unfold. You're not really holding on to anything, just there. You know, I can do my daily things and not constantly question, oh, is this the right thing? Is this the, no, it is, because I'm doing it right now, so it's the right thing. So yeah, so yeah, I guess more comments than anything else. But yeah, thanks for the talk, and this is really great. I'm really thankful for this group and for you, Stephen. Thank you.
I'm going to continue the reflection that Joanna started with the kids. My daughter has a cookbook that she loves, that it's about the chemistry in the kitchen. So instead of having the recipes or half of the book, it explains why does fat work the way it works and why does heat work the way it works. So it has the 4 ingredients in the kitchen, which is fat, heat, sugar, and what's the other one? Something else. And she loves the book because she gets to understand when she's cooking, what does she need? What does this recipe need now? Is it more heat or more fat or more sugar, more whatever? And I drew a parallel with Joanna's question. And I think, of course, as a father, we always have those things in mind. Am I doing the right thing? And my reflection is, it's to give them the ingredients in the kitchen, but not necessarily expecting that they cook the recipe that we like.
Mhm.
So I think if we teach them that, if we give them a variety and a diversity of ingredients, and they know we think it's good and what they think it's bad and values and whatever, but then don't be attached to the output. Let them play with the ingredients, because if they know how heat reacts in the oven with the heat and the salt and the flour, the food is going to come out right. Although it may not be the dish that we'd like to eat, that we'd like them to prepare. And of course, I'm looking at my own daughter, that sometimes she does what I wanted her to do, sometimes she doesn't. But I'm learning to develop a trust that she has the right ingredients, and that in her past she's doing the best she can with the tools and the ingredients that she has. Some that I gave them to her, and sometimes she says, "Remember that when you said that 20 years ago?" I said, "No."
Mhm.
So sometimes we plant these ingredients somehow. They pick other ingredients from school and from friends and from life and whatever. And then it's up to them to invent their own recipes.
Mhm.
I think this was my reflection.
Mhm. Okay, I'll stop it there. And yeah, we'll stop it there if there's no more questions, and then see what comes up for next week. If you have any other, if things come up during the week, questions, that's what sort of molded this week's session. So I'm always open to receiving suggestions or questions during the week in between. If things are coming up in your practice as well, as I always say, I welcome to hear from you about your personal practice, because that's really where I can give a Dharma talk in I can speak for 30 minutes and there might be 10 seconds that, really connect, or the word Joanna used is resonate. That word is a really important word, because I'm not trying to just give you information. I'm resonating in a sense directly with your being, that kind of vibrational level. So it's hard when I'm giving a talk like this to a group, but if you have individual issues that come up, by all means, that's where I can really kind of focus right in on where your practice is at, and sort of what's arising for you. And that can be very helpful. And so I welcome that as well. And I find it rewarding. I'll use that word, even if that's the right word. Nourishing, maybe a better word. I like doing it. Kind of like my tea. So don't hesitate. Don't feel like you're inconveniencing me or disturbing my day or anything like that. Feel free, and I mean it from the bottom, from my heart to you. So be well, everyone, and we'll see you next Thursday. Take care.
Thank you, Stephen. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Stephen. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Good night.
Thank you.
You
Thank you, Stephen.